Hello and welcome to the Republic of Football. I'm your host, Ishmael Johnson, back from a little brief vacation last week as we are still adjusting to our new broadcast schedule, right? Alongside Carter Yates, who held down the fort last week. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, but I am playing a little injured today. I'll hold this up so the camera can see.
My God.
Just moved to my new apartment, as you all know, and I was making my dinner last night, and I sliced my finger with the biggest, sharpest knife I had. Could not have been bigger or sharper.
What were you cutting?
Bell peppers, no big deal.
Okay.
No big deal.
Just making sure. Right.
But yeah, I'm playing injured today.
A little aside, by the way, Mallory is in the other room. Hello, everyone's favorite Mal Pal.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. The reason why, of course, you can hear us and see us if you are watching live on Twitter or YouTube or Facebook as well. By the way, yesterday, that reminds me, I went to a gas station yesterday just to grab something to drink, and there was a guy who was holding his daughter's hand walking in, and on the other hand was like a deep gash that was just an open wound. And I was like,
that's horrible.
And like he opened the door and I was like, I'm not grabbing that door.
Bleeding all over the handle.
But like, I didn't see him grab like any like medicinal things. So like, I don't know if it was just like, I'm gonna take care of this when I get home, and I'm just kind of walking around 7-Eleven like this. I looked at his finger. I was like,
wait, so was it like bleeding?
yeah,
like,
no, it was like open. It was just like bleeding down. It was like a same finger as Carter.
Dripping all over the 7-Eleven floor.
And I was like,
oh, jeez.
I just like, let me make sure I get to the register first, because I'm not trying to punch in my pin after this guy. So that
I didn't think about that.
That reminded me of that. Yeah, he opened the door for me, and I was like, let me get my elbow like right there. So I'm like, that was very weird. Take care of your wounds if you're hurt, like Carter.
Like I did.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. On today's show, we're going to talk a little bit about some uniforms that just came out last week, or this week, I believe. Was it yesterday?
A couple days ago, yeah.
From TCU, very similar to Baylor's, Nike. We'll talk a little bit about that. But the big headline we'll talk about is, of course, the proposal of corporate sponsorships of conferences, I should say. Most notably the Big 12, but also Conference USA. I believe there was some rumors and rumblings about that. And then in the back half of the show, we'll be talking with the youngest offensive coordinator, or soon to be official youngest offensive coordinator in college football, Kenny Hrncir of UTPB, 23 years old. He quarterbacked them last year. We'll be talking with him in the back half of the show. But let's stick to the headlines right now, right off the top. Carter, earlier this week, we saw TCU drop some new uniforms. A lot of schools are dropping new uniforms, kind of as a refresher. A lot of programs like to do like the new era, new coach, new uniform, or whatever type of deal. Some teams like to just wash away a new era and kind of rebrand a little bit. TCU's, very similar to Baylor's, I'll just say.
Eerily similar
to Baylor. And that's not TCU's fault. That's more of a Nike thing.
Here's what they look like if you're a
Yeah, there you go. If you're watching, there they are. Again, I think in a vacuum, I don't hate them. But the fact that I've seen these uniforms just in green and yellow like a couple weeks ago from Baylor, Nike, I have questions.
Nike...
It's just very vanilla.
Nike with all of their uniforms has gone minimalist. And I don't know who in Nike's department has decided that less is more, but less is less at some point. Because TCU had the coolest collar in the game. Really the only positive thing I have about these uniforms is the chrome's coming back a little bit.
I do like that they're having an all white, it looks like. I think the all white looks good for the aways. If you look at last year's Iowa State uniforms, this year they announced new ones with like kind of different shoulders. Very similar design. Last year's Iowa State, where it was like the solid red, the solid yellow. It's very, they took that template and applied it to Baylor and TCU. And then I believe West Virginia as well has a similar template.
But then it makes no sense too, because the Nike NBA jerseys are all crazy.
Well, so here's the thing. I was in college when Nike first started to make waves with their college uniforms, and they were the worst things I've ever seen. And so I wonder if somebody at Nike was like, we can't do that again. Because if you look at Mallory, I don't know if you remember the Michigan State neon green.
I remember that? It haunts my nightmares every single night.
I believe that was a Nike joint, if I'm not mistaken.
Wait, the ones with like the big state across the front?
I think that was
no,
Nike.
I don't like those.
I know.
I'm pretty sure because they're a Nike school.
Yes, so that was a Nike joint. Florida also had the, it was like a crocodile or gator scale like thing. That was a Nike one.
I remember that.
I think Ohio State had like a black or some like black fusion where it's like don't touch. If Texas or Ohio State ever they're one of those programs like don't get alternates ever.
Oh, I will be with my pitchfork.
Yes. So Ohio State was one that also had like. So I think to your point, they go minimalist because I think they're afraid of doing something different.
Or if we want to get conspiracy Carter over here.
Go ahead.
Founder of Nike, Phil Knight, is at an Oregon alum.
Yes. Yeah.
They have the coolest jerseys ever.
Sure.
Now Nike's doing all the jerseys for all the other colleges.
Yeah.
Are they purposely making all of the Nike jerseys worse so that Oregon's get cooler and cooler?
Sapping all the swag out of everyone else so that they can drop like a new awesome Donald Duck logo on there.
People are wondering.
Honestly, that's not a bad theory because like, yeah, when Oregon was like launching like 12 uniforms, it was like, this is the coolest thing in college football. Everybody started to try to do something similar, but they're not as cool as that. Their color scheme's not as creative as that. So I don't know. I think, again, in a vacuum, I'd be like, they're fine, right? But now I'm like, Nike, you're kind of running out of ideas, or it's pretty obvious. I'm sorry, my headphone thing's touching my mic all the time. Move that over there. It's kind of like you're just kind of running out of ideas, and you're just kind of like copying and pasting. And
it seems low effort.
It seems low effort, and yeah, I don't know. We'll see, but I think that it's more of a fear thing. It's like we can't let this. We can't be memed like we were in the 2010s where we just released stuff. Because if you played NCAA 14 or 13. They had all those uniforms as alternates.
Oh, so many uniforms.
So many uniforms, and a lot of them are very bad. So anyway, we'll see what other schools are going to be dropping new uniforms. TCU and Baylor are just the first from Texas to do so this offseason. I think Texas State has some. I heard a rumored gold uniform, which hopefully it's better than the last time they tried gold. Because the last time they tried gold was not very good.
What year was that?
2015, 16. No,
okay.
I was here. It was like 2017, 18, I think.
Yeah, because I remember, so for those of you, I have a really good friend from high school who played football for Texas State. Nick Foster, shout out.
Yeah.
And I remember the game that I went to, they were wearing those gold uniforms. Because I was like, I think I remember what those looked like.
Yeah,
they were not gold. They were like a light yellow.
Yeah, it was
almost.
It was not very good. You can look up Texas State gold uniforms, and you'll see the eyesore that they were. So hopefully they're a little bit better than those.
Yeah.
Speaking of other headlines, Texas State got an omelet bar.
Okay, I saw that.
So Carter tried to roast us it was Powers.
Oh dear.
Powers tried to roast us.
Yeah, I was not talking ill on the omelet bar.
Right. So yes, if you saw on Twitter, I think it was Lincoln Perry posted about it. It was like, I forgot what the exact tweet was, but it was basically bragging that yes, Texas State now the players have a omelet maker and an omelet bar. Powers, I think, was talking to Tepper about it, saying like, is the omelet bar really that you've made it? Listen. If you've had the budget that Texas State has had for basically my entire life before the past couple of years, that is a thing. That is Brady McBride quote tweeted it, the former quarterback for Texas State, basically saying like, wow, they got an omelet bar. We really made it. Like genuinely, yes, that is a thing that was not there. Ask previous head coaches. They were paying for their own food pregame in previous administrations. So shout out to them. Let's see, here's the tweet from Brady McBride. This is jaw-dropping. This has to be the biggest depiction of how far the program has come in the last year. So the answer is yes, that means you've made it if you have an omelet bar for your players. So thank you, Carter, for reminding me of that. It's massive news. Bigger than their stadium naming rights deal, in my opinion.
Yeah, who cares?
So, all right, the bulk of this headline section, though, a little bit more of a discussion, open-ended, is going to be about this news from Pete Thamel, and I believe Brandon Marcello from CBS also had it. The rumored Big 12 naming rights deal that is potentially coming down, being talked about. We'll see. It's in the wake of the House v. NCAA settlement, where the NCAA is going to be paying, I believe, for the next 10 years, up to $1 billion worth of back pay for player revenue, basically. And so, in the wake of that, there's going to be some potentially find ways to generate money, right? The conferences need to find a way to generate money, schools, things like that. The nightmare scenario that I think we all read, I think Pete Thamel originally reported this in the fall, was the potential addition and collaboration with private equity.
Yes.
I'll get to why that's a nightmare scenario in a bit, but we kind of opened the door a little bit to that potential with this.
Well, it started, the first domino was corporate logos on the field and maybe on jersey patches, and then the final domino is GVC Capital runs Florida State. Right,
yes, basically. So, yes, so Pete Thamel reported this, I believe this was last week. Let's see, this is from the article on ESPN. The Big 12 is exploring selling its naming rights to a title sponsor with potential revenue of hundreds of millions of dollars over the course of the deal, sources told ESPN on Thursday. This is of last week. The commercial sponsor would potentially take the name Big out of the Big 12 and replace it with the sponsor's name. So in this case, the example that they threw out was Allstate, right? This is the rumored sponsor. So it'd be the Allstate 12 or whatever, however many teams there would be, Allstate 16. I don't know how many. I don't know if they would stick with the name or whatever. It could end up as one of the largest commercial deals in collegiate athletics history, not including media rights. So this is
gross.
This opens the can of worms that I was very much afraid of, because this then opens the door, because what happens when the big Allstate is not happy with certain things, right? And because then it gives them stake, right? It gives them stake, and
but not a
equity in the
controlling stake.
Sure.
You got to know they
Sure.
won't have a controlling stake yet.
Sure. So therefore, nothing they think about will matter. Like they definitely don't care about what they think then, right? So that's, I don't know. A lot of people threw out like why this is a bad. I get why this is happening. Right?
Oh, I totally understand why Brett Yormark is doing this.
College football has never been about profit, ever. It's about who is the richest guy that went to our school that can fund a program, or the richest bunch of guys, if you're Texas, right? The bunch of boosters who went to the school who are just willing to go to the golf course and say, my team's better than yours. And so I'm going to put money in to be able to say my team's better than yours, right?
Correct.
If your buddy went to Alabama and you're a Texas fan, you want to be able to say that Texas beat Alabama like last year. That's what college football has been. That's what college athletics has been, right? UConn with the women's team, they're saying they have boosters that are willing to make that team that much better than everybody else. South Carolina now. When you start throwing profit and balance sheets and everything that goes into a typical business into college athletics, you get to a very, very sticky situation.
Very true. Because like you talked about, college athletics has not been for profit. It means that all the money they make gets invested back into the program. But when you are for profit, someone's got to take home money, like a capital firm or something like that. But I think it's two different things that we're talking about.
Sure.
The corporate sponsorship of the conference is just a gateway into private equity.
That's
but
what,
let's talk about the All-State 12 football conference. Do either of y'all watch Nathan For You ever on HBO?
Yes. Fantastic show.
What is it?
Nathan For You. It's
Nathan
basically
Fielder.
Nathan Fielder. He has like fake business plans for small businesses.
Oh, never
This
saw that.
entire thing felt like a Nathan For You sketch where
Kind of did.
have people give us money under the guise of car insurance that we instead use to make the All-State 12 football conference of 18 teams.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great. Yeah. It's
Well, okay.
keep going. I'm still trying to.
I've calmed down. I think most of y'all know me as an even keel guy. Doesn't get very emotional all the time, but I was super triggered by this when I first heard about it.
I was too.
And it just to me felt dystopian.
Yeah.
That we are going to have insurance companies like the All-State 12 and the Global Life Conference USA be the names of football conferences.
Because it's one thing, you mentioned it with the
Like this is my Hunger Games, is what I'm trying to say.
You mentioned it a little bit, right? We've seen sponsors aren't new, right? We've seen the All-State Good Hands Field Goal Net, right? That's a thing. There's a difference between a sponsored element of a game, right? And like similar, it's like a jersey patch, right? There's a difference between a sponsored element to the game. You can be sponsored by Allstate without being the Allstate Texas Longhorns, right?
Yes.
That's the difference. That we're now giving them stake, right? We're now giving them, and I believe in the Pete Thamel article as well, the Big 12 has also been in discussions with private equity firm CVC Capital Partners for a stake in the league between 15 and 20%. Sources confirmed to ESPN. That could give the Big 12 up to a $1 billion cash infusion and would be the first known large-scale private equity investment in college sports. So that is nightmare scenario to me,
insane.
because they're putting in $1 billion and they're going to eventually say what's coming back to me.
Exactly.
Right.
And that is where the All-State, again, these are two different discussions, right? The All-State Big 12 or All-State 12, whatever, and then the the CVC Capital Partners, that would be two different deals, but that would obviously marry and relate to each other. But CVC Capital Partners comes in and they're like, okay, the Big 12, you better start making money within a certain amount of time or this $1 billion is not going to happen.
Because donor money is charity.
Sure.
CVC Capital is not charity.
I was about to say, donors love to write off that eventually at the end of the year to be like, I gave so-and-so to this school, to this program. It goes to, it's a public institution. So like, all this stuff. It counts as charity. And again, it is a bragging rights thing. The reason why you can spend millions of dollars on, there's a reason why only like a handful of programs make money, right? Like as far, when you look at revenue and profit, every program loses money, right? Every single program, every single sport loses money because that's not what they're about. They're about getting it back to, again, we look at the facility upgrades that these places have, right? Millions into facilities, millions into NIL, millions into to stadium renovations. That's not profit, right? Those are, you're not going to come back and say when Texas expanded DKR, right, to the 30,000 they did to get to the 100K. They weren't going, okay, cool, 78,000 to 100 and whatever thousand they have now. Eventually, we're going to make a profit off of that. Yeah. It's like, no, they just want more people in the stadium to look cooler, to make it feel like the big house, like Michigan, like Ohio State. It's an ego thing. Part of it is an ego thing. That's what college sports is. And it was never, it's about bragging rights, regional bragging rights. Can you beat Oklahoma? They're spending that much on their roster. We got to spend this much on our roster. No one's saying, well, they're profiting. You know, like no one's saying like Alabama's a profitable institution.
Right.
I think there's multiple facets to this conversation because I was reading the Athletic piece about it, and it basically says that the Big 12 is doing this because they're lagging behind in TV revenue and college football playoff payouts from the Big 10 and the SEC. And they are. $22 million that they have to pay players is what the Athletic said is a quarter of Kansas State's annual revenue, not profit.
Right. Revenue.
And that is a rounding error for Texas and Ohio State,
right,
and stuff like that. But I feel like we're kind of scapegoating. They have to pay the players for now. This is why all of this has to happen.
Yes, 100%.
Because to me, it feels like, are these programs really hurting for money,
right,
or is it that they are hurting for money compared to what the Big Ten and SEC make? I don't know if they personally are like, we're going to go bankrupt.
Right.
I think the rich and the poor is like the stupid rich and the still rich,
right,
but the rich will have you make them believe they're extremely poor.
Right. The reason why the article is framed, sorry, Mallory, you have something to say. The reason why this article is framed as like in the wake of House versus NCAA is because of that ruling. Yes, now this is the way they're trying to circumvent paying them directly or out of their own revenue, out of their own media rights deals. So sorry, Mallory, what were we going to say?
No, I was just going to say, well, here's another side of this too. Kind of talking about these big corporations like Allstate and Globe Life, there's so much conference realignment going on right now.
Right.
I mean, what if we see a big deal like that happen with something like the Big 12 or the Pac-12, and then they just kind of disintegrate? You know, what does that mean for these big corporations, these big insurance companies? You know, it's also just something to think about.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately
there's so many cooks in the kitchen.
I was about to say there's so many cooks in the
yes.
kitchen. And like Carter said, I can understand why, right? If you're the Big 12, you're seeing the SEC and the Big 10 not only get this mega media rights deal, but also like positioning themselves to get more of a playoff payout. Or they already got one, and now they're looking for more, right? We keep hearing about further expansion and then like guaranteed spots and all these different things. And it's like, okay, yes, I can understand you're seeing a power, like even more of a power shift and kind of a power nexus with those two, and like you're trying to figure out where you can navigate to. The problem with this, and this is kind of the overall problem with the rumor of private equity coming into play, is eventually the bill comes due, right? Eventually for a private, let's say $2 billion gets thrown into the Big 12, right? Eventually, that bill comes due in terms of where's the money? You're gonna have to cut costs eventually, right? You're gonna have to take things away. Hey, tennis, you're not making money for the Big 12, right? You're not doing that anymore, right? And eventually it goes down to those conversations because like, eventually you just have like every school having like 4 sports, right? To probably comply with Title IX, obviously. And so you keep the football team, maybe have one other men's team, maybe a basketball team, and then you have like maybe 3 other women's sports to balance that out with Title IX and all that. But then like track and field, gone. You know, like
club.
I was about to say club will be just completely destroyed. You have 5 guys in a strength and conditioning staff. You have 2 now, right? Like you can't pay $1 million or 6 figures for this guy, right? Director of player ops, that's a part-time gig now. You know, like things like that. That's the thing we get down, right? We see Texas Tech doing this new stadium renovation, right, with the end zone complex. All of a sudden, that becomes a thing where you're like, well, we can't afford to do that now. We gotta this has to go to something else. This has to go to whatever. And I like that you mentioned, Carter, the scapegoating of the players, because these media rights deals ain't getting smaller, right? But no one's touching that. That's going all to the SEC, right? That's going all to the conference, and that's not going to trickle down to the players. And so what they're going to do is, yes, they're going to look to, well, we got to generate money somehow. I was like, well, you just signed this deal with ESPN. Like, where's that equity coming in? Where's that going down to the players? It's like, no, that's going to stay the same, and we're just going to figure out a way. It is a nightmare scenario, which, again, and the reason why I brought up Conference USA is because I think Globe Life was one of the rumored sponsors for there. It's where they have their media day as well. You're going to see a bunch of conferences, not the SEC at least yet, not the SEC and Big 12, looking for sponsors, and we're going to see those rumors come out.
This is my opinion. I don't think Brett Yormark first approached Allstate once he found out the schools are going to have to pay players.
Right.
I think it was once they found out the college football playoff payments and the television contracts were so lopsided.
Right. And so this is from the CBS article. Big 12 teams are currently earning $31.7 million each with Fox and ESPN, and the media rights deal that ends in 2031. Add in cash infusion from private equity and 2 revenue streams would combine to move the Big 12, quote unquote, much closer to the Big 10 media rights deal, according to a person in intimate knowledge of the proposal. So again, it is about just like trying to close that gap a little bit. And they know there's going to be a have. There's still the haves and have-mores, right? That's kind of where we are now. But it's about just like narrowing that gap. And as we keep talking about playoff expansion and continued expansion, it's not going to stop this year, because we thought 12 would be kind of, okay, cool, we'll be here for a couple of years. No, they're going to expand it to try to get 16, because the SEC is going to have a 3-loss team. The Big Ten is going to have a 3-loss team that gets left out. And they're going to be like, well, come on.
Well, then once we expand it to 16 teams, doesn't the SEC and Big Ten want more teams in each of their conferences? So then once CVC Capital has invested in the Big 12, well, sorry, all those Big 12 teams, if they get a call from the SEC, they're going to go to the SEC. And then how does that affect the private equity firm?
Sure. No, 100%. Yes.
Which I don't care how it affects the private equity firm. I'm saying, what would they do action-wise?
Right,
Correct.
exactly.
That's what I was saying earlier, too. Yeah.
It's, unfortunately, this is kind of because the NCAA waited so long, and basically until House versus the NCAA basically ruled this settlement saying you better pay these players now. This is where we're at, right? It's these kind of discussions, which is unfortunate, because this is not what I don't think anybody in this room fell in love with college football about, right? And Mallory, I'm pretty sure you didn't care. It's like, oh, Michigan State's going to get a whatever payout from ESPN. That's awesome. You're like, not really.
I did fall in love with college football because of the Allstate Mayhem guy, actually. So
he was pretty
speak
awesome.
for yourself.
But he's going to be like commentating play-by-play of the game at this rate.
Well,
he's going to be handing the Big 12 trophy to Quinn Ewers.
Good luck getting your fender bender covered now. A lot of that money is going to the Big 12.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't know why I said Quinn Ewers. They're out of the conference now. But you get what I'm saying. Mayhem's going to be like doing the kickoff at this point. Like he's going to be just in the game at this point. But yeah, like
Jake from State Farm could play halfback. That dude is jacked.
He's jacked. That guy. He's also everywhere. That's the other thing. There's too many commercials already as it is and sponsorships. Like I cannot imagine like how much Allstate's going to be like all.
Have you seen the one of him and Caitlin Clark? That one's pretty good.
Oh yeah,
he's been State Farm one.
He's been everywhere. That dude hustles.
Everywhere.
That dude hustles.
Does he? The commercials suck.
His commercials
Whoa,
suck.
hot take.
The State Farm commercials are horrible.
I'll say this. It is very funny.
The Mayhem ones are funnier.
This is a side note. We can kind of end here because we'll have to get to the interview. I do like it that Jake from State Farm, that new guy, is like they just turned a commercial that was actually funny at one point in concept into like a totally different black guy. Because like it was that pudgy white guy.
Oh, yeah.
That was the Jake. Oh, he's like, who are you talking to? Jake from State Farm. And it's like this white chubby guy in khakis. And then they're just like overnight. They're just like, actually, he's just a guy that looks like Drake now.
I completely forgot about that commercial.
That was the original commercial.
That's what they want you to forget about is the original guy. I want to do an in-depth profile piece on the original
Jake from State Farm. We remember because that commercial was actually funny before they overplayed it. But yeah, now it's like actually here's a guy who's like 32 and he looks like Drake.
Now it's just like here's Chris Paul saying, "Oh, that is foul."
Hey, it's Cliff.
It takes like 2 minutes to write that commercial.
The State Farm SEC coming soon is what we're saying also. All right. So as we prepare for our interview with Kenny Hrncir, let me tell you a little bit about our sponsor, Home Field Apparel. before we get to another word from our sponsor. Home Field Apparel, if you're watching, let me see, there we go, right there. If you can see in the corner of the screen, you see our promo code DCTF for 15% off your first time purchase. I will say it is starting to get harder to find a FBS program in Texas that does not have a Home Field Apparel deal. I believe just Texas State and Sam Houston, I believe, are the last remaining schools. UTSA is coming up next month. They just put those out, so they are getting ready to release a UTSA run. If you are a fan of a school in Texas, go check out homefieldapparel.com. Promo code DCTF for 15% off your first time purchase. I dare you to find a better collection of college gear that really takes into account your school's imagery, history, and all the likes. Not just football, basketball, baseball, all the likes. So, homefieldapparel.com. Remember, promo code DCTF for 15% off your first time purchase. And we'll be back with Kenny Hrncir after a word from our sponsors.
I feel like bustin' loose, come on, get on up, oh yeah, get on up, bustin' loose when you wanna sing, bustin' loose, baby, do your thing, talking about bustin' loose, yeah,
Hi, I'm Jennifer Potter, Executive Director of Be Well Texas. Too many people are struggling alone these days, and alcohol and drug deaths are increasing. We started Be Well Texas to offer high-quality, science-based addiction treatment and recovery services anywhere, even at home. We provide compassionate, caring support virtually or in person. In many cases, there is no cost for treatment if you don't have insurance. Really. Welcome to Be Well Texas. We're glad you're here.
Wing is the largest residential drone delivery provider in the world, delivering to your home in less than 30 minutes. Order using an app just like other popular delivery services, and Wing's automated drone takes care of the rest. It's fast, safe, and sustainable, and it's now delivering to parts of Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. You can learn more at wing.com/TexasFootball. Again, that's wing.com/TexasFootball.
Welcome back to the Republic of Football. And as I hinted in the first half of the show, we're talking to the youngest offensive coordinator in college football, last year's Lone Star Conference Offensive Player of the Year, All Texas Non-FBS Offensive Player of the Year, product of Needville High School, and now the offensive coordinator at UTPB, Kenny Hrncir. Kenny, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. You're already sounding more mature as we step into this. So, first of all, 23-year-old coordinator, man. How does that feel to be named, as the youngest coordinator in college football?
Oh, it's awesome. All the respect to our head coach, Chris McCullough, giving me this opportunity and allowing me to work with some of the great coaches we have here, along with our other offensive coordinator, Blake Crandall. He's done a great job. All these guys have just really welcomed me in, and I can't think of a better staff to start with.
Now, Kenny, are you going to be younger than any of the players you're coaching this year?
Oh, yeah. Our starting quarterback is actually a few months older than me. So.
How's that? I was about to say, how's that dynamic? Because you went from sharing locker rooms with these guys to hey, by the way, we got to adjust this, on the fly. How's that been?
Yeah. So just gotta stop hanging out with them outside the facility, really. But no, these guys have been great too, along with the staff. They really just kind of knew what was going to happen, knew this was a role I was going to step into. And they've really respected the decision and respected me as a coach so far, and it's been great just working alongside of them. Really seeing a lot of your best friends still succeeding at what they love to do it's one of the best feelings you can have.
And Kenny, we talked about your new quarterback you'll be coaching, Dylan Graham, and he was actually the starter in 2022 before you took over that starting job. Now he's going to be the starter again. What has his growth been like throughout the offseason?
It's been incredible. Put football aside, he's one of the best guys I've ever met too. For a guy to come in and be told that he's not going to be the starter anymore and still want to stick around with this program and trust the staff and trust the culture that we've built here. I think that kind of says everything you need to know about him. Playing wise, he can throw the ball with the best of them. I'm so excited to coach him, so excited to just continue working with him each and every day and just have him in our facility. He makes us twice as good of a team.
We talk about you being a young coordinator, but you're a head coach, also young. I believe he first became a head coach at 26, not even 30 yet. You know, what's it been like now for you at 2 stops with him, obviously going from his quarterback to his OC, but also from East Central to UTPB? What's just like, give us a breakdown of what it's like working with him, a younger coach, but somebody who's still very accomplished.
Oh, yeah, it's great. He, everything that he preaches about family, he actually lives it. And I put my full trust in this guy. Coach McCullough has never steered me in the wrong way. And, he's a guy that I knew I'd want to work for because of that, just that trust I have with him, that culture aspect that he really teaches to everybody. Just preaching family and him living it with, having his kids up here and allowing other guys on the team or other coaches, their kids are up here, they're playing around. He wants to spend time with family. And, when it's time to work, we get to work. But, when it's time to just, live life and be with the family, be with friends, he's all about that. So I've put my full trust in him since day one, and I'm going to continue doing that.
Now, Kenny, take me through this timeline of your offseason. So you run out of eligibility after a great year playing QB last year. You're hired as the passing game coordinator and quarterback coach after the season. But when did you find out about becoming the offensive coordinator, and what were your feelings in that moment?
So I knew that, right after the season, me and Hayden Kelly, who's also on the staff now, played linebacker for us, and Matthew Zubiotti, we were all in the office that next morning and started getting to work. So just having them around was awesome. And then afterwards, hearing that I was going to be co-offensive coordinator with Blake, it came after Coach Ryan Lusby just got the Dodge City head coaching job. So big congratulations to him. I know he's going to do such great things out there. And I'm rooting for him. I can't wait to watch him this season. But Coach just came in and talked to me and Blake and kind of explained the situation. And it was truly an honor to be named offensive coordinator, and something that I don't know really if it's set in yet, but I'm excited for the opportunity.
I believe before you even played last year, you knew you were going to be going into coaching after you were done, correct?
Yes.
So
yes, sir.
Did you kind of take last season, or I guess the question I should ask is, what's it been like for you kind of adjusting from playing to, being on the sideline, holding the clipboard a little bit? What has that transition been like in general?
Well, yeah, I knew I was always going to want to get into coaching. I thought, at the college level, it'd be a great start since I'm still young and, want to try some things out. But just the difference between playing is, it's the closest I could get to playing. Mm. So, I knew I never wanted to go get a desk job and just sit behind a computer. And so I wanted to be out there and just being, like we talked about earlier, being with the guys that I played with last year just makes it so much better for me that, I get to see them succeed. I'm still jumping up and down on the sidelines. When Dylan Graham's throwing touchdowns, there's nothing better than that. So I'm just trying to play football without any years of eligibility left, really.
Well, when we were researching your story, we saw you had a full-blown Wikipedia page. How does that feel at 23 years old to have a full-blown Wikipedia?
I just found out from you that I have a Wikipedia page. I had no clue.
That's awesome. Yeah, he has your high school career right here, of course, mentions Needville. By the way, you still keep up with Needville?
Oh, yeah, I still keep up with Needville. So I'm actually from the West Texas area. Grew up in Wink, about an hour from Odessa. So okay. I went 2 years in Wink and 2 years in Needville. And so I'm still keeping up with both of them, rooting them on.
Awesome. So one of the last questions I had was, I think, Carter, you mentioned this actually. You used to have kind of a more flow going on with the hair.
Yeah, we saw you used to have a flow, like shoulder-length hair, Kenny. When's that coming back?
That's not coming back no more. The wife's not going to let that one happen. So,
okay, that was a good business decision.
I'm sorry?
That was a good business decision on your part.
Yeah. I'm getting a little smarter now.
Sounds good. All right, so one of my questions I did have was, hey, when you get in practice and you're like, hey, hit the guy like this on the post, something like that. Do you get out there and be like, all right, let me show you how I want this to be done real quick. Let me show you how this throw is supposed to go. Let me show you how to layer this pass. Have you done that yet? Have you done let me show you how you're supposed to do it?
No, I really want to, but I know I'm not gonna be able to make that throw either. So I just leave it to those guys and try to teach them from the sideline.
There you go.
Well, we talked about your career at Needville High School a little bit, but I also saw that you were a regional golf champion while you were at Needville. So what is your golf handicap looking like nowadays?
I think right now it's like a 4.
No,
but I mean, I can
still.
easily shoot 100. So just depends on the day.
Do you get to go out there very often still? I mean, that's a pretty good handicap for being now you're a coach coming off of your last football season. You get to go out there often?
Yeah, we go out there a little bit. They got some good courses around here, so luckily our coaches, gives us a little bit of time off in the summer. We can go hit the range at least a few times a week and just play a round or two every now and then.
Nice. Awesome. Well, Kenny, appreciate your time, man. Congratulations on the new gig. It's going to be awesome. UTPB kicks off August 31st, Saturday, against Western New Mexico, the reigning Lone Star Conference champions. Kenny Hrncir, appreciate your time, buddy.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a good one.
You too, man. All right, so no Flo coming back. So
Yeah, I was disappointed to hear that.
you also kind of got rid of the flow. You have some gone. But
Yeah, a little bit. I'm kind of a poser now. I just want to live vicariously through other people, basically.
There you go. You got to live by example, though.
I too had to make a business decision, if you know what I mean.
That's fair.
It's cool that we've talked to Kenny twice in the past year, one as a quarterback, obviously at Lone Star Conference Media Days last year, and now as the offensive coordinator for his alma mater.
And I'll tell you one thing.
Not even a year later.
Yeah, I was about to say, not even a year later, less than a year later. And also, he's gotten a little bit more mic comfortable.
He has.
Right? He's definitely gotten more of a presence about him.
Because Carter, you were the one that talked to him at Lone Star, right?
Yeah, me and Corey Hogue were the ones who talked to him at Lone Star Conference Media Days. And I remember Coach McCullough said, please talk to Kenny, because he knew he was getting into coaching. He was like, he needs this practice, and he was very shy then, but obviously now
he's come out of his shell.
He's coming out of his shell a little bit more.
I wonder. I was about to say, I wonder what that first team kind of because coaches usually have to talk to the whole team at one point. At least when they're introducing themselves. I wonder how that went, or if he spent last fall kind of getting that out of his shell. So he sounds so much more comfortable. I'm very excited to see them because they're coming off of, like we mentioned, winning the Lone Star Conference last year. Chris McCullough, we've had stories on him. The Athletics had stories on him. People know about that program a little bit now. So I'm very excited to see what they can do and what Kenny can do as OC. So
yeah, it's going to be really interesting. A hell of a football player. I'm sure he's going to be a hell of a coach.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so that'll do it for us. We appreciate you guys joining us on this noon episode, I believe the second noon edition, right? Yeah, look at that. So you can join us next Tuesday at noon as well. I'm trying to think. Yeah, okay. I'm making sure that we're not leaving for 7 on 7 at that point. So yeah, next Tuesday at noon. And remember to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. YouTube, subscribe on YouTube. Thank you for watching. If you watch this, thank you for listening. If you listen to us, remember promo code DCTF on Home Field Apparel, 15% off your first time purchase. Appreciate you guys' time. We'll be back next week. Who's the coach that we haven't had on? Mike Elko. No, have we talked to him? No, we have not. Mike Elko, please come on or please talk to us. We'll sit down and chat. You sat with us for the magazine, so we would definitely probably.
That's a start.
Yeah, it's a start. It's a good start. It's better than the last guy. So, and then also go Rutgers. I don't know if it's in the frame. There it is. Yeah, there it is. Go Rutgers, and we will see you guys soon.